The death of Queen Mary. On the 17th of November 1558, the tyrannical reign of the Queen of England concluded. Mary I, often dubbed Bloody Mary for her ruthless persecution of over 200 individuals during her 5-year rule, marked a dark chapter in English history. Her reign was marred by religious upheaval and authoritarianism, inherited from her father, King Henry VIII. Motivated by a reverent religious zeal, Mary's rule was overshadowed by her relentless pursuit of religious conformity, targeting Protestants and heretics. Her inability to produce an heir weighed heavily on her, leading to further persecution and blame placed on dissenters. Mary's health issues compounded her stress throughout her life, raised in the tumultuous aftermath of her father's divorce from her mother, Catherine of Aragon. Mary endured separation from her mother, which left a profound emotional scar. Her fragile health, marked by bouts of sickness from childhood, exacerbated her already strained existence. Physically frail with fiery red hair and a strong voice, Mary's health deteriorated as she reached adolescence, plagued by recurring illnesses affecting her head and stomach. Despite surviving smallpox, her health remained precarious, casting a shadow over her reign and ultimately contributing to her demise at the age of 42. Mary's health continued to deteriorate, plagued by persistent ailments that left her unable to keep food down. Concerned for his daughter's well-being, King Henry VIII dispatched numerous royal doctors in an attempt to alleviate her suffering. Various physicians attempted to diagnose and treat Mary's condition, ultimately attributing her symptoms to strangulation of the womb. This affliction manifested in a myriad of distressing symptoms, including menstrual irregularities, depression, breathing difficulties, abdominal pains, and swelling. Mary's documented struggles extended beyond physical discomfort, encompassing a lack of appetite, severe headaches, nausea, vomiting, and fainting spells. These debilitating health issues cast a shadow over her prospects as a potential heir to the throne, exacerbating her emotional turmoil. Following her mother's downfall and subsequent removal from the line of succession, Mary found herself ostracized by her father, compounding her sense of isolation and abandonment. Seeking solace with her half-sister Elizabeth, Mary's restricted freedom led to moments of respite. She was often observed riding horseback around the estate. However, her status as a threat to the succession prompted authorities to impose harsh restrictions, compelling her to renounce her royal titles and endure mistreatment within her household. Threats of execution loomed ominously, further exacerbating Mary's already fragile state. As Mary approached her 19th birthday, her health plummeted to alarming levels. Despite efforts by Lady Shelton and a hired professional to alleviate her symptoms, Mary's condition worsened, pushing her to the brink of death. Suspicion surrounded her treatment, with fears of potential repercussions for those involved in her care. Even royal doctors hesitated to intervene, wary of association with her potential demise. Amidst the uncertainty, the intervention of King Henry's trusted advisor, Thomas Cromwell, offered a glimmer of hope. Dr. Butt, the king's personal physician, prescribed a specialized treatment regime, attributing Mary's deteriorating health to her living conditions. While she experienced a temporary improvement, her illness persisted, exhibiting unpredictable patterns and fluctuating severity. Despite her precarious health, Mary's aspirations for a royal marriage remained elusive, with potential suitors deterred by her chronic illnesses. Desperate for relief, Mary appealed to Cromwell for leniency and improved conditions, but her plea yielded little respite. Despite her ongoing struggles, Mary continued to fulfill familial duties, including serving as chief mourner at her father's consort's funeral. As the winter of 1537 approached, Mary's health once again faltered, casting doubt on her future and perpetuating her cycle of suffering and uncertainty. Mary's health declined to such an extent that she struggled to maintain basic activities like standing or sitting for extended periods of time. Episodes of fainting, coupled with heart palpitations, heightened concerns for her well-being, prompting fears that her demise was imminent. Despite these dire moments, Mary managed to rally, accompanying her father and his sixth wife, Catherine Parr, on their honeymoon, albeit briefly, before succumbing to illness once more. In 1547, following her father's passing and the accession of her Protestant half-brother, Mary's anxiety intensified. As a devout Catholic, she feared persecution or even death under her brother's reign. However, fate intervened, and Mary seized the throne after deposing Edward's successor, Lady Jane Grey. Her subsequent marriage to Philip of Spain in 1554 stirred controversy and public resentment, casting doubt on her judgment and reigniting fears of foreign influence. Amidst the rumours of pregnancy, Mary retreated into seclusion at Hampton Court Palace. Despite claims of impending motherhood, no child materialised, leading to speculation and disappointment. Her mental and physical health deteriorated further, exacerbated by phantom pregnancy symptoms and deepening depression. Mary's resilience faltered as recurring illnesses plagued her, compounded by external crises such as the famine and influenza outbreak of 1558. Despite fleeting moments of improvement, her condition worsened, marked by fever, dropsy, and cognitive decline. Recognizing her mortality, Mary prepared her will and designated her Protestant half-sister Elizabeth as her successor. In her final days, Mary's devout faith sustained her as she prayed for salvation and experienced vivid visions. On the morning of the 17th of November 1558, she passed away, leaving behind a legacy marked by religious upheaval and ruthless suppression of dissent. Various theories have been suggested regarding the cause of Mary's death, ranging from ovarian dropsy to cancer or tumours. Regardless of the exact ailment, Mary's reign, though brief, left an undeniable mark on England, characterised by religious persecution and turmoil. Despite her struggles with health and the burdens of leadership, Mary's impact on the English history remains undeniable. Death of Queen Elizabeth I. The iconic monarch of the Elizabethan era became the epitome of beauty standards during the 16th century. Her pale and flawless complexion was revered as a symbol of nobility and perfection, setting the benchmark for feminine allure. However, this ideal of beauty came at a grave cost. Elizabeth's pursuit of perfection led her to the use of cosmetics containing toxic substances such as lead and mercury, which not only harmed her skin, but potentially contributed to her eventual demise. One of the most prominent cosmetics that she used was a makeup composed of lead and vinegar, which she applied to her face and neck, resulting in a ghostly appearance that became her signature look. Furthermore, Elizabeth adorned her lips with a stain, which was made from a mineral containing mercury, giving her the iconic red lips depicted in numerous portraits. Over time, the prolonged use of these toxic substances caused irreversible damage to her skin. The lead corroded her complexion, while mercury poisoning led to symptoms such as memory loss and depression. Despite being aware of the risks, Elizabeth persisted in wearing her makeup for extended periods of time, exacerbating the harm inflicted upon her skin. Even the process of removing her makeup posed further dangers, potentially exposing her to additional mercury. The tragic consequences of Elizabeth's pursuit of beauty are underscored by the accounts of individuals who praise the effectiveness of mercury-based makeup removers, unaware of the harm that they were causing. These removers, while leaving the skin feeling soft, were actually stripping away layers of tissue, causing significant damage. Additionally, Elizabeth's early years were marred by a battle with smallpox, which left her with permanent scars on her face. In a society where appearance was heavily scrutinised, Elizabeth went to great lengths to conceal her blemishes, fearing that they would diminish her stature as a ruler. Throughout her life, Elizabeth employed various strategies to maintain her image of youthful perfection. She prohibited unflattering portraits of herself and relied on skilled artists to depict her in a flawless manner, as evidenced by the famous Darnley portrait. However, the realities of aging proved inevitable, with Elizabeth resorting to wearing wigs to conceal her thinning hair. Despite her efforts, the Earl of Essex's revelation of her balding head in 1599 served as a stark reminder of the passage of time. In her final months, Elizabeth's health declined rapidly, yet she adamantly refused to rest, fearing it would signify her demise. Instead, she endured standing for long hours, supported by pillows strategically placed by her attendants. On the 24th of March 1603, Queen Elizabeth I passed away, with potential causes of death including cancer or pneumonia, exacerbated by years of exposure to toxic cosmetics. The aftermath of her death was marked by speculation and controversy, with accounts of her body allegedly bursting open in her coffin due to the buildup of noxious vapours. While the exact cause of Elizabeth's death remains uncertain, her tragic fate serves as a poignant reminder of the dangers inherent in the pursuit of beauty. The use of toxic cosmetics dates back centuries, with evidence from ancient civilizations like the Romans, yet their poisonous nature was not officially recognized until after Elizabeth's death. Despite advancements in understanding the risks associated with certain beauty practices, the quest for beauty at any cost persists to this day. The story of Queen Elizabeth I's beauty regime serves as a cautionary tale, highlighting the enduring legacy of pain and sacrifice in the name of beauty throughout human history. The death of Queen Anne. Queen Anne, the final ruler of the Stuart dynasty, is most notable for orchestrating the successful unification of England and Scotland in 1707. Her reign also marked the conclusion of the War of the Spanish Succession. Despite her popularity upon ascending the throne after King William III's demise, Anne's life was plagued by persistent health issues, failed pregnancies, and debilitating conditions that caused her considerable suffering. Her health deteriorated sharply in her 30s, leading to her demise at the age of 49 in Kensington Palace on the 1st of August 1714. Anne Stuart, along with her older sister Mary, were the sole surviving offspring of James, the Duke of York, and his first wife Anne Hyde. At the age of 3, Anne was sent to France for medical treatment due to vision problems, where she stayed for 2 years, mastering the French language. However, upon her return, she found her mother had passed away, and her father had converted to Catholicism and remarried Maria Beatrice of Modena, who was significantly younger than Anne's elder sister Mary. Anne's marital life was heavily influenced by political concerns, particularly her father's fears of Catholic plots against him. She married Prince George of Denmark and supported the Glorious Revolution of 1688, which saw her father deposed in favour of William and Mary. Anne endured multiple miscarriages and the loss of 2 infant daughters to smallpox, before giving birth to her only surviving son, William, the Duke of Gloucester, in 1689. However, he also succumbed to illness at the age of 11. Upon ascending the throne, Queen Anne appointed a cadre of skilled advisors to implement her policies both domestically and internationally. She forged crucial alliances with the Netherlands and Holy Roman Empire and led England into war against France, securing several significant victories. Despite facing political pressures throughout her reign, one of her major accomplishments was negotiating a treaty with Scotland. Under the agreement, Scotland would fall under England's protection, receiving financial aid and border security against potential threat from both Scottish and French forces. This treaty also established a unified British Parliament, standardised currency, and facilitated trade through custom unions. Anne's personal life was marked by tragedy, as she endured 18 pregnancies, each resulting in the loss of her children except for her son William, the Duke of Gloucester, who survived the longest. Her health, already fragile, deteriorated further after the death of her husband George in 1708. Afflicted by gout and other ailments, she faced immense physical suffering, evident even during her coronation when she had to be carried due to her inability to walk. As her health declined, rumours of her death circulated, exacerbated by severe illness episodes such as a debilitating stroke in July 1714. Queen Anne passed away on the 1st of August 1714, reportedly finding relief from her prolonged suffering. Her body, swollen from dropsy, necessitated an unusually large coffin for her burial in Westminster Abbey. Before her interment, an autopsy revealed a small umbilical hernia, potentially contributing to her persistent health struggles. As the years passed, Queen Anne also struggled with obesity, which may have hastened her decline. When she passed away at the age of 49, opinions on her reign were divided. While some viewed her favourably, others portrayed her as foolish and ignorant, labelling her stubborn. Today, she is recognised as a monarch capable of asserting her authority over the nation, despite enduring significant health challenges. Throughout her life, Anne faced immense suffering, enduring 18 unsuccessful pregnancies without a surviving heir. She battled with gout and mourned the loss of her husband, adding to her burdens. Anne's reign is often viewed with a sense of sadness, earning her the title of the ill queen among the Stuart monarchs. Nonetheless, she holds the distinction of being the first sovereign of Great Britain, presiding over a period of considerable transformation and change. Queen Anne's legacy is one marked by immense personal hardship. The death of Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria, one of the longest reigning monarchs in English history, passed away on the 22nd of January 1901 at the age of 81, after ruling for approximately 64 years. Her reign marked a peak in the prosperity of the British Empire, with her subjects commonly referred to as Victorians. Her death came as a shock to many, as preparations for her state funeral had not been anticipated due to the unprecedented length of her rule. Towards the end of her reign, Queen Victoria faced significant challenges and turmoil. The year 1900 was particularly distressing, marked by the strain of the Boer War and personal tragedies within her family. Her elder son, Edward, the heir apparent, survived an assassination attempt, while her eldest daughter, Vicky, the Dowager Empress of Germany, battled advanced breast cancer. Additionally, her son, Alfred, the Duke of Edinburgh, succumbed to throat cancer, and these losses deeply affected Victoria, who had already experienced bouts of depression, especially after the death of her husband. As Victoria's health declined, she experienced weight loss, decreased appetite, and deteriorating eyesight, eventually becoming wheelchair-bound and confused. Reflecting on her declining health, she expressed sadness and resignation, acknowledging her imminent passing. Queen Victoria, once a formidable ruler of the British Empire, was now facing the end of her reign and her life with a heavy heart. 3 weeks into 1901, Queen Victoria passed away at Osborne House, her residence on the Isle of Wight. Following her death, Osborne House underwent a strict lockdown, with no one allowed to leave the premises for a brief period. Phone lines were disconnected and a crowd gathered outside the gates. A note on the bulletin board announced the Queen's passing at 6:30 p.m, surrounded by her children and grandchildren. The news of her death surprised many, as her reign had been enduring, leaving preparations for her state funeral uncertain. Despite official denials of her illness, Dr. James Reed, who attended to Victoria's health for 2 decades, recognised her impending demise. The cause of Queen Victoria's death has long been debated. While she suffered from rheumatism and poor eyesight, it was a series of strokes after the 17th of January that led to her decline, causing delirium and pain. As her condition worsened, the royal family was summoned to Osborne House, where preparations for her succession were made. Surrounded by her loved ones and clergy, Queen Victoria passed away, leaving behind a legacy that would endure for generations. Prayers and hymns filled the room as Queen Victoria lay on her deathbed, surrounded by her closest family members. Despite her consciousness, her failing eyesight left her unable to see. Each family member kissed her hand and bid their farewells in their own way, while the clerics continued their chants in a futile attempt to rally her. The cause of Victoria's death remains a subject of debate, with some attributing it to a series of strokes that she suffered, while others believe it was simply due to old age and frailty. Regardless, her declining health was evident for some time, marked by her loss of appetite, exhaustion, and confusion. Following her passing, confusion arose regarding the planning of her funeral, as her unprecedented reign left no precedent for such arrangements. Despite her expressed wishes against it, a death mass was ordered by Kaiser Wilhelm, and additionally, logistical mishaps such as the forgetting of a coffin and subsequent delays occurred during the transportation of her body to London. Victoria's body was prepared for burial by her doctor and dresser, who refused embalming and instead used charcoal to mitigate odour and moisture. She was dressed in a white silk gown, adorned with symbolic items, and sentimental objects were placed inside her coffin, including a lock of hair from her close friend John Brown. Her funeral procession, marked by military honours and solemn ceremonies, reflected the magnitude of her reign. Finally, as her body was lowered into the vault at Frogmore, both Kaiser Wilhelm II and Edward VII knelt beside her coffin, paying their respects to the woman who once symbolised immense power, but passed away surrounded by her loved ones. In a sequence of meticulously orchestrated events, the world witnessed the solemn passing of an era, as the news of Queen Elizabeth II's death reverberated across continents. The plans laid out for this sombre occasion were executed with precision, as dignitaries, family members, and officials were informed in a carefully choreographed sequence. Amidst the backdrop of Buckingham Palace and Balmoral Castle, the unfolding of these moments painted a poignant picture of a nation and a monarchy in transition. As the clock ticked away on September the 8th, a historic and poignant series of actions and announcements brought the curtain down on a remarkable reign, ushering in a new chapter in the annals of British history. Let us delve into the details of this extraordinary day, exploring the unfolding events that marked the end of an era and the dawning of a new one. Elaborate preparations for the event of Queen Elizabeth II's demise were thorough. They were consistently reviewed and modernised. On the 8th of September, these plans were executed with precision. However, not every eventuality could be predicted. Balmoral Castle, despite its impressive neo-Gothic facade, offers a more intimate setting in contrast to the vastness of Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle. This is one of the reasons the late Queen had held deep affection for it. The private living spaces and official chambers are in close proximity. Hence, on the morning of September the 8th, it's safe to assume that most individuals at Balmoral were well aware of the momentous unfolding of events as the Queen's life quietly waned. Just 2 days prior, with her signature smile in place, despite leaning on a walking stick, she had named her 15th and final British Prime Minister, Liz Truss. However, an announcement made shortly after 6 p.m. the following evening, indicating the Queen's postponement of a virtual Privy Council meeting on medical advice. This raised concerns. The imminent passing of a monarch is a significant constitutional affair, and Downing Street would have been promptly informed about her deteriorating health. Simon Case, the Cabinet Secretary, and Sir Edward Young, the Queen's private secretary, assumed crucial roles in liaising between the palace and Downing Street. During that evening, Case relayed the message to Truss that there existed a distinct possibility of the Queen's condition worsening rapidly. As Truss diligently worked on the energy statement, her inaugural and primary act as Prime Minister, she couldn't help but be conscious of the potential overshadowing, as sources suggest. For any personnel at Windsor who may have been uncertain about the gravity of the situation, the departure of the Queen's helicopter from Windsor Castle shortly before 7 a.m, transporting the Prince of Wales from Dumfries House in Ayrshire, where he was staying overnight, to his mother's bedside, would have undoubtedly caught their attention. Charles arrived at Balmoral just before 10:30 a.m, and the Duchess of Cornwall was driven from the nearby Birkhall to join him. Meanwhile, the Princess Royal, already in Scotland for her engagements, was already present. Within Downing Street, Case was unequivocal about the imminent arrival of distressing news, potentially within a matter of hours. Truss, still in the process of packing her belongings for the transition to Downing Street, had aides dispatched to her Greenwich residence to locate appropriate black attire, as detailed in the biography Out of the Blue. Truss was in the midst of a reshuffle when the palace initiated its pre-arranged cascade communications system to inform key government figures. One minister recounted entering their new department and being informed bluntly, "You have a meeting of 30 minutes. Officials used straightforward language, conveying their anticipation of the Queen's impending passing. The minister's immediate task was to receive a prompt briefing on the so-called London Bridge plans. Reflecting on the experience, the minister remarked, "It felt like a baptism of fire for me. I hadn't supported Liz, and I was expecting to remain on the backbenches, and suddenly I was not only grappling with changing departments and taking on a new role, but I was also instantly involved in one of the most high-profile operations globally." Signs of trouble reached the broader public in an unlikely setting, the House of Commons, where mentions of the Queen were rare. Truss had concluded her initial statements and was attentive to Sir Keir Starmer, Nadine Sawaley, and new Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, quietly entered the chamber and positioned himself between Kawasi and Truss. He handed a note to the Prime Minister, then discreetly exited. Almost immediately, murmurs spread along MPs, sensing the gravity of the moment. Labour's Deputy Leader, Angela Rayner, received news next, passing a note from outside the chamber. She gave it to the Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, who looked visibly concerned as she read it. The note was straightforward, without any hidden references to London Bridge. It conveyed, "The Queen is unwell, and Keir needs to leave the chamber for an immediate briefing." Rayner strived to convey the urgency without causing undue disruption to Starmer's ongoing discourse, though she noticed Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle signalling that she should interrupt him. At 12:32 p.m, Buckingham Palace issued a statement. "The Queen's medical team has expressed concern for Her Majesty's health and recommends she remains under medical supervision. The Queen is comfortable and currently at Balmoral." Hugh Edwards of the BBC, donning formal black attire, relayed the news to the general public. A scheduled call between Truss and French President Emmanuel Macron for the evening was cancelled. For family members of the Queen who were not already at Balmoral and unaware of the rapid decline, making the decision to gather presented a dilemma. Arriving too early could incite undue alarm, while arriving too late might mean missing the chance to bid farewell. When Buckingham Palace issued a statement at 12:50 p.m, indicating the departure of William, Andrew, Edward and Sophie for Scotland, the seriousness of the situation became starkly evident. Around 2 p.m, in a separate announcement, the Sussexes, who were residing at Frodmore Cottage during a visit to the UK for an awards ceremony, also revealed their intention to travel to Scotland. 2 hours later, as it became apparent that Kate would be staying at the Cambridges' new residence in Windsor, where their 3 children were still adapting to their new school, it seemed that plans for Meghan to accompany Harry had been abandoned. Considerable speculation arose regarding Harry's absence from the jet that departed RAF Northolt at 2:40 p.m, with his brother and uncles on board. There were indications that the flight might have been initially scheduled for 1:30 p.m. However, no explanation has been provided for the delay. In any case, Harry embarked on a separate journey, departing from Luton Airport on a private jet at approximately 5:30 p.m. He was still in transit when the announcement of the Queen's passing was officially made at 6:30 p.m. Subsequent revelations from the public release of her death certificate weeks later revealed that the Queen had passed away at 3:10 p.m. Dr. Douglas Glass, her official physician in Scotland, who also held GP clinics for Balmoral staff, declared her deceased. The cause of death was attributed to old age, and Dr. Glass disclosed that there had been concerns about the Queen's health for several months, noting, "It was anticipated, and we were well aware of what was to come." William and the other members of the royal family touched down at Aberdeen Airport at 3:50 p.m, a mere 40 minutes after the Queen's passing. Guided by William at the wheel, they made their way to Balmoral, arriving at 5:06 p.m, an hour and 25 minutes ahead of the public announcement. During this time, the formal process of disseminating the news was already in full swing. An internal palace team was actively reaching out to all individuals who required immediate notification. Number 10 Downing Street, Lambeth Palace, the Chief of the Defence Staff, Prime Ministers and High Commissioners of the other 14 countries where she held the position of Head of State, among others. A staff member affixes a notice regarding the passing of Queen Elizabeth II to the gates of Buckingham Palace in London on the 8th of September. Upon Harry's touchdown at Aberdeen Airport at 6:45 p.m, the global populace was already aware of the solemn news. In the aftermath, Buckingham Palace refuted assertions that Charles or his team had faced difficulties in reaching his younger son prior to the public announcement. The spokesperson for the newly crowned king emphasised, "The public was informed only after each family member had been duly notified, as was relayed during that period." Harry ultimately reached Balmoral by 7:52 p.m, and by this time Charles had issued a personal tribute expressing his sentiments for the departed monarch, a mother, grandmother and great-grandmother. Outside the premises of number 10 Downing Street, preparations were underway for a podium. Clad in the black attire sourced by her aides, Truss took to the podium at 7:07 p.m. She somberly remarked, "This signifies the conclusion of the second Elizabethan era. This day marked the culmination of an unquestionably historic chapter as well."